Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about ancestors and altars and free game from the universe just for asking. This is Bevin, a femme over 40 and her friends podcast. I'm your host, Bevin, and I'm here with my guest who has returned to the podcast, Jes Baker. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Bevin. I'm glad to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. And you know what I love is that our friendship never ceases. Even if we're not publicly discussing things on the internet, we are privately discussing things in lengthy voice notes and like a private podcast between the two of us and our asynchronous friendship. And whenever we get together at the same time, I call it porch hang time because we could really be porch friends that just give each other bread and sustenance. I'd love to start business in the front, and your business involves so much, and I love that about you. And I would love for you to tell people what you're doing now to help people.
Like, what am I doing today? It will probably be different tomorrow. This is a great question. One that I have thought about a lot, and it will take me a moment to think about again. Okay. Okay, I really fuck with the dead. So I think that I work with the dead. I think I work with ancestors. I am also a somatics practitioner. Those things are related. I do coaching around all of those things. I do mentorship around those things. I'm a medium or somebody who can talk to spirits. And so I also will meet with people and like introduce them to parts of their spirit team. And what's really cool, I think, for me anyways, is that I've landed at a place, for me anyways, where what I'm doing doesn't feel like work. It feels like I'm living my life in relationship with everything around me and everyone around me all the time, 24/7, awake, asleep, inside, outside, everywhere, always in relationship. And this is just the external manifestation of that. So I think I've just been so like obsessed with identity and like my work and my identity and like who I am and my worth is by what I do. And it's so fascinating to be in a place where it's just like I would do this no matter what. I do this no matter what. Like 2025, rough year for people working for themselves. Still was doing this more and more. And I'm a slut for learning and growth edges and I just love that shit. So I'll be doing that forever. But yeah, I think I don't know. Does that make sense to someone on the other side?
I think it totally makes sense, except if someone doesn't know what somatics means, which there is literally a whole podcast episode we did about somatics.
Yes, we did. And I explained somatics. I was really heavy into like explaining somatics. Well, I found mediumship, spiritism, spirit work through learning how to listen to my body, through doing somatic therapy myself, and then also training in somatic experiencing as a practitioner. And I realized that once I was able to speak more fluently with my entire body, I was, it's just like this really cool technology piece that is alive and also has many parts of it that are also alive. It's like many beings within a being within a being. Yeah, and that led me to being able to perceive and understand and like sense and talk to spirits, and not just human ones, all different kinds. I am particularly Bevin, there's something like oh Yeah, well, now we have to do it. There's something. Oh no, I've already done it to myself. There's something very, very powerful for me about rock, mountains, stones. They speak like people to me. Um, there's a really great video movie on Netflix called Troll, not the glowy trolls Justin Timberlake one. Like it's a Norwegian one where like the earth becomes alive and he's a troll man. There's Troll 1 and Troll 2. And I fucking love them because that's kind of how I view rocks. And I think that is very much part of my lineage in many, many, many ways. But I'm very connected to rocks. I also found out, oh God, here we go. This is going to be a mess. I also found out, so my friends really love reading smut. And I don't have fucking time for that. Like, I really tried to get into like the Omegaverse, and I tried to get, like, they're like, you have to read, I don't read fiction. Fiction is boring. I want to learn more about like the world and be a part of it. However, my friend introduced me to a book. I don't remember the author's name. If they're smut readers, you will know. It's about these two NASA scientists, and they go, I think it's like enemies to lovers thing. And they go and they have to like figure out what to do about Mars while in the Norwegian fjords and mountains. And like the way my whole body was just like, this is the hottest thing in the entire world. And that's when I realized that I thought also that rocks are incredibly sexy. And like, I think my dream I'm a professional who does important, serious work, but also we must talk about my rock kink first. My dream, if I die, is I hope that I die in a crevasse. If you hear about me falling into a crevasse, it's on purpose.
Oh.
And my dream is that I fall into a crevasse and then I get hypothermia. And because of the hypothermia, I have to like start stripping off all of my clothes. But it's like the most erotic thing of all time because I'm like stuck in between all of these rocks and then I die. That's just kind of how I would like it to go. But anyways, in a also non-sexual way, I talk to rocks as like beings. I can't believe I just said that on a podcast. Anyways,
welcome to my podcast and the world of the truthiness that I inhabit.
It's so good.
You know, in many ways, we're similar, and in many ways, we're opposite because I want to die an old woman warm in my bed. And then I want to be put into the earth 3 feet deep into my mycelial network so that I can become one with my friends. And just nourish.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Awesome. I'm one with the earth, but I do get stones being your friends. I also want to say that Jes Baker's website is beautiful because one of your many competencies is graphic design and web design and writing. So all of those things go together and your website's gorgeous. So if you feel at the end of this conversation, you're like, I want to change my life, Jes Baker, one session will change your life.
I don't think I've done an adequate amount of sharing of anything to convince anyone of that, but yeah.
I listen, people, if you're listening to the podcast,
this?
Do we need to what?
Do we need to re-record this?
Absolutely
Do I need to
not
talk about my rock kink?
Absolutely not. I think here's the thing. We were just talking before we started this podcast about how like in my newsletter I sent out today, I was just like very honest about my marketing experiences and like my struggles with like I was like I didn't even talk about my business during Black Fridays, Small Business Saturday, or Cyber Monday, even though I do run an online business, because I just couldn't handle the consumer frenzy and I just didn't want to be part of it. So like, and I'm just like so honest, like I don't want to raise my Patreon rates. I just want to have more people on the Patreon so that I don't have to raise the rates. And there's this like haunting thread that I read where someone said, I've just never seen a business not raise their rates during inflation and survive. And I'm like, I want to be that business, you know, like, so anyway, to support this podcast, which I'm supposed to do every episode, is best way is supporting my Patreon page, patreon.com/FKDP, which stands for Fat Kid Dance Party, which is my aerobics class for anyone who feels left behind by mainstream fitness. If you've ever been called too fat, too much or felt too awkward to dance, mine is the supportive class for you. This winter, my Zoom classes are focusing on grief support stretching and rage aerobics because I feel like everyone's dealing with a lot of grief and rage. And if you can move it through your body, you can really break a glass ceiling to better mood, better feeling, more joy, and all of that because joy is a response to how much you can hold your grief. And you don't have to hold it all the time. You can just let it flow and be honest with it. And also, I have private podcast recordings that are only available over there. I'm doing a really cool series about conflict in community and all sorts of stuff that is available there just for supporting my work. And I want to thank anyone out there who supports my work because the art I'm creating today, I can draw a direct line to my Patreon support, and I'm so, so, so grateful. It's also the best way to get newsletters from me because I was also talking to Jes about like having newsletter services and how expensive they are now, and all of the different costs that just keep going up for digital businesses are kind of nuts. So I love that Patreon just keeps expanding what's available there, including now a newsletter. So please keep the podcast going. All the links are in the show notes. And now we're back to the show. Jes, tell us about.
I've recomposed myself. I think I can pretend to be a normal human now.
It's all right. And also, this is a start before you're ready podcast meeting. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it just is supposed to be real life. Like everyone is hanging out on the porch with us right now with a
Yes.
cozy blanket and a good beverage. Jes Baker, will you tell us about making an ancestor altar and like supporting your spirit team through quote unquote altar work and what that looks like?
Yeah. Why do you think that is important?
Well, it's something that I didn't really know anything about when I started my spiritual journey.
Mm.
And I learn new things all the time about altars. And I feel like you are like an altar boss. I think it's your Virgo moon. Jes, for anyone who's wondering, is a Leo sun, Virgo moon, Scorpio rising. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like there's something about your Virgo moon that does altars so well. So I just feel
Mm.
like, and you really understand what the ancestors need and want. Uh,
Mm. Yeah, okay. Um, well, I find it really interesting. So I learn a lot from Caitlin Grania.
hmm,
Um, they go by the Mother of Mystics, and they're fourth generation Espiritismo Cruzado. So it's a crossroads practitioner, and I fucking love their work. It's been really, 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 really helpful. I'm very excited to work with them this year too. Anyways, a lot of the beginnings have come from, like learning from Caitlin, but also what I like to do because in my um, where I learn or like how I put information together is in Sagittarius. And so I love to learn from like a million different places that don't seem connected. And so if you like kind of look at the people that I learn from, it looks like they're all over the place. They don't make sense together. But what I love about it makes sense to me. And what I love about that is I get to hold all of it. And then I also get to find the through threads that are like in all of it. And so there is this through thread. Um, so the through thread that I found from all of these different places, people, practices, traditions that have been kept alive, um, also through practitioners who practice Ifa and like related, it's all there. Um, is ancestor veneration, which is it's a strange sounding term, but it just means remembering the dead. Um, and I think I think for like altars are just physical sacred spaces that we create. And I'm gonna guess that like even if somebody is listening and they're they're like, I don't have an altar, I don't do this work, you probably have a corner where some special things live that are important to you that feels really good, and that in its own way is an altar. So really that's all it is. It's like a dedicated sacred space. And so I can tell you kind of like the basics of an altar, and I also find like the more scientific parts really fascinating. But I also just want to share that, like, for me anyways, all spirit work and spirit practice is best when it's like personal and intuitive, and you're following you, and you're following what your ancestors are wanting, and like what makes sense for you. Like, this isn't something that needs to be done rigidly or else it's wrong. That I just hate dogmatic shit, so we're not going there. But an altar for ancestors, um very very simple starting place, is a place that can be dedicated to it. A candle of any kind. Traditionally, there is a vessel of water. Maybe it's like a goblet or a cup. I have these little like fishbowl looking vase things. I like those. Um, and maybe like a white cloth underneath. And the thought behind the white candle and the white cloth is that energy is able to move through it. It doesn't cling, so it's able to keep it kind of clear. Um, so there's also like, beautiful altars with fuck tons of color, and that's exactly what it should be. So it's kind of up to you. And when I first started learning about altars, I was like, but why? Like, I always want to know why. Um, and what I was kind of understanding, there's this like really, I've never seen The Witcher, but there's a clip in The Witcher, for those of you who have watched it, where the kids are learning how to lift a rock. And the teacher is like, say this incantation, lift the rock. Somebody does it, and she's like, oh my God, the rock's flying. But then her hand shrivels up. And the teacher is like, like, what a bitch. She's like, thank you for demonstrating how not to do this. Um, you know, energy cannot come from nowhere. It is an exchange. So the teacher demonstrates like picking up a little bunch of flowers, saying the incantation, the rock lifts, and the flowers wilt. So the energy is kind of coming from the flowers instead of the person. That for me was my first introduction to like why an altar is kind of important. Not only because it's a dedicated space that for me as an ADHD person, it's like very important to have out. So I remember and I'm able to like visit a place, right? Like a sacred place, even if it's just in my office. It started out on a bookshelf, but also
and then eventually.
and now
Yeah.
they have spoken and it has grown. And also the more I learn about them, um, the more there are to be represented and talked to, which is really cool. I'm learning some cool new things. But that was my first understanding of why altars is the candle is an energy source. The water is a facilitator of energy and also an energy source.
Mm.
You might put a rock, like literally, it's not even a crystal, just like a rock that has energy, right? A plant has energy, flowers have energy. Whatever else you put on it, you can go as much as you want. You can add anything meaningful to it, related to your ancestors, things that remind you of them. I'm kind of looking at mine, and I have some pictures of them. I have a little cigar. I have a potato. I just put a potato on there because they really want some like hearty food during the winter, which is really interesting. Flowers, um, little, there's some rowan from Ireland, some rowan trees, some shells. They're all just really meaningful, beautiful things. All of that supports and is an offering to the ancestors. And here's why. Because ancestors are they're so important. So the living, Caitlin talks about this a lot. The living impact the dead, and the dead impact the living, whether we want them to or not. Like, we are connected. This is a living ecosystem, and we're all a part of it. And so being able to consciously connect is really, really beneficial for everyone involved. And ancestors can offer a lot of things. Um, they're often our first line of defense because they're able to work in like the 340 realm. They were humans, they understand a lot of what this is like. Um, they are able to move people in our path and out of our path. They were really, really, really helpful a couple of years ago when I was going through some huge medical issues. And I was like, as someone who's like talked about the failures of the medical system, I was like, and also I can't change the medical system right now. So I need help. And ask them specifically for like the right doctors, medication to be filled, like help in that way. But in order to do that, they also need support. So that's kind of the physical, tangible part. And to make it, it can be simple, it can be elaborate. It doesn't need to be anything other than what you like it to be. Um, but I also want to mention that, like, I have a lot of earth placements. I love earth things. I love a tangible reminder. Like I carry stones around in my pocket. Everything is very meaningful to me. And there's a ton of other offerings for ancestors that are available. And I think that those are really important to mention. And one of them is just like attention and learning about them. I think actually one of the most beautiful, Robin Wall Kimmerer talks about attention as currency, which I love. And I think one of the most beautiful things is for those of us who like love to do research and history deep dives is like learning about the people who came before you, learning about the cultures, maybe the folklore, learning about where did they live? What was the climate like? What was the land like? Who was involved and for how long? Um, all of that is energy and attention that is remembrance, and it feels almost reverent in a beautiful sacred way. So that's also an offering, right? You can play music for them, you can sing to them, you can dance, you can I have a friend who reads books to their ancestors, which is really sweet. um what else? um yeah, I mean, there's a million ways. There's a million ways, but that's the altar kind of gives you a central focal point. It gives you somewhere to come. It gives you somewhere to stop and pause and say good morning. And over the years, what I have noticed is that in the beginning, I was like, I know I need to do this because it's important. It didn't really feel a lot. I was just like kind of going through the motions, and that's fine. I was just like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. Um, and I kind of was like waiting for something fantastical to happen. Um, what ended up happening is it just felt like they slowly grew closer and closer and closer. And it was like throughout the days and dreams and conversations and research and all of this, and just like seeing the world with eyes that include them in it. It felt like they were getting closer and closer. And now I come into my office and I light the candles and I say good morning and I replace their coffee if it needs to be. Um, and I turn on music and I can feel my room like fill. And so it's the coolest fucking feeling to be like, I'm just like surrounded by people that fucking love me and they're all just hanging out in this room. I had a reading with it was actually a person who was doing my mentorship. And it was the very end, and she was doing a reading for me, and she was like, "Oh my God, your family is like they're all here, and it's like they're hanging out in an underground pub, and everybody knows each other, and they talk about you when you're not here, and they're like, oh yeah, Jess does this, this, and this, and like that is kind of the vibe of like a lot of the ancestors, and so I get to have that feeling in my office every day and wherever I go, and that feels really beautiful. So that's an altar.
I love that. Something that I was introduced to in a reading, I want to say this was like 4 years ago, so it's quite some time. was that the ancestors are hungry and they want food. And so that was the first time I started offering food on the altar. So I do what I call an ancestor bite from meals. And it's
Yeah.
every time, but I'm getting better and better at almost every time putting just a bite over there. And sometimes when
Yeah.
I'm at a restaurant, I'll get a little plate and put an ancestor bite and like just to send them that energy because food has energy and love and like
Yes.
and like I asked them, what's your favorite food from me? And they said maple syrup. And I was like, oh, five, because they know it's my favorite thing, right? So it's just like those kinds of little things. And you taught me just yesterday that like when you put sustenance on the altar, it's not like you have to do it every day. So you can put instead of putting oatmeal, you put dried oats, right? And like
Yeah.
dry beans and things like that that are like longer term.
Hmm.
Whereas like for forever, I've just been putting because I try to eat potatoes every day in the winter because it's grounding and it's in
Yes.
food.
Yes.
And they're so good for you. The humble potato, so many ways to
Hmm.
be a hero. Um,
Hmm.
I love potatoes so much.
Yeah.
But the fact that you put a whole freaking raw potato on your
Yeah.
almond, which can last for so long, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
anyway.
And there's a little pumpkin that's been on there for a couple weeks. Um, but I'm very, very familiar with my Irish maternal line. That seems to be the one that it like even when I go to other mediums and I'm like, which way should I go to work? And it's always like, come back to the Irish. Like there's something that I need to be doing um lineage line wise, working with them. Um, and also if you have ever seen any of my social media, like Ireland is a very potent place for me. Um,
The
however,
first time you ever talked to me about talking to a stone, it was from an Irish stone.
yeah, it was. They chat there. Did I tell you about the last time I was there and I asked, I was talking to a standing stone and I was like, hey, I really hate the rocks in Tucson. Did I tell you about this conversation?
You did not tell me you shit talked the Tucson rock
I did.
to the
I
Irish
did.
rocks. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Quick tangent before we go to ice people. I there's something people for me, I can't speak for anyone else. For me, there's something very easy about Ireland where my body understands the land in a way that is instantaneous, in a way that I've struggled my whole life here in the desert to kind of like connect with rocks, trees, like all of that. It's just very difficult for me here. Um, and there's so many cool things that have happened. But anyways, Ireland is like magnet. Like I just, I everything makes sense. Everything talks. It is so easy, and I really needed that experience to know that that was possible, so that I could learn how to do it in the desert too. But while I was there last last year, well, anyways, about a year ago,
I know it's a new year now. It's
it's a
weird.
new year. Yeah.
It's a new year,
Uh,
2 baby days old.
I did talk to a stone, one of the tallest own stones, who showed me his entire lifespan, just like millions of years in like a 30-second clip. It was really quite incredible.
Wow.
Um, cried and cried and cried. But then I met a second stone and he was like a little more churlish. He was the like big entry stone to a stone circle. His name was Urla. He told me I could just call him Urla. And he was like, I have a very important job. I point people to the stone circle. Also, look at the view. Not a bad view. It's beautiful here. Yeah. And so I asked him a few things. One was I was worried about like, will I ever be able to come back to Ireland? Because this was after the election, and I was wondering. The Kaliak gave me some great advice, but anyways, so I asked him some questions, and then I was like, "Listen, Urla, I really fucking hate the rocks in Arizona. Like, I keep trying to talk to them. I don't like them." And he was like, "I mean, that's fair, but we're cousins." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "We're related, and they're fine." And we're different, but like it's chill. And he showed me how visually, he showed me how they communicate. And basically he showed me like underneath the ocean floor going all the way, they connect and communicate through underneath the ocean floor, and then like it pops out, as it's he was like, little human, the earth is connected, this water is surface level, and then also energetically over, and then it kind of became a solid sphere. And so he was showing me how rocks connect, and he knew that I understood humpback whales, and so he was like, oh, it's a lot like how like a humpback whale will have a new song in one area of the world. It's a new song for a new season. And then on the other side of the world, there will be a humpback whale who sings the same song, and they cannot figure out how they know the new same song. He's like, this is how rocks communicate. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And you know what? I found some really beautiful rocks a couple days ago here in Tucson in Madera Canyon. And we had a conversation and it was lovely. So I appreciate that. Erlo was very helpful.
You're never going to talk to rocks if you don't get out in nature. So that's another lesson to people. Like, you don't know what you know yet if you're not like out and about experiencing it.
Yeah. 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 And I think I was thinking about this too, Bevin. Um, what do you call this? ADHD ribbon dancing?
Yes.
Yes. I was thinking about like um how enjoyable it is to learn what elements you feel the most ease with.
Mm.
Um, and maybe this is something everybody does, and I just don't know. But the ocean is like was the first one where I was like, oh, the ocean, and I can yap all day long. And then rocks, really, really, really important. And they're both kind of extreme. They're like one is very fluid, one is very solid, but they're both kind of almost vicious, but also ancient. And they hold, you know, billions of years. So um, it makes me wonder too, like something that people who are maybe like really connected to trees or people who are able to like sense, are you a tree person? You're a tree person. Yeah. I have a hard time talking to trees, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I know I'm really good friends with someone when we go on a walk in my woods and I can introduce them to all of my tree friends.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I also wonder about people in like the air, wind, maybe birds too. I just get really curious, like when people, because I think a lot of times, mm, I don't think that having intuition and psychic knowledge is hard. I think the self trust part of believing and of understanding and believing yourself is the hard part.
And the
And
imagination work, because a lot of us are taught not to trust our imaginations.
right, right, yeah,
Self-trust and imagination. It's those two things coming in together to give you
yes,
information. And it
yes,
super makes sense that your psychic mediumship developed after you were able to like do the somatic work with your body to not be in threat mode. Because if your body's in threat mode, you can't hear subtle things. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it feels like the world is gonna kill you. So like until you handle that stuff, which like most of the humans on this planet are raised in such a way where like we just have these little traumatized bodies and can't hear our subtle bodies and don't learn the wisdom passed on through lineage, like it's so
yeah,
interesting how much I've learned just through this process of mediumship and developing my senses about my own ancestry that was never taught to me. And
yeah,
like it's such a shame because I kind of see the way in which like my maternal line, like the kids are in three packs, right? Like so you'll have like three or six, and like they each are born with a role, like it's
mm-hmm,
mystic, healer, protector, and it
mm,
usually goes in the order of the firstborn is the healer, then the mystic, then the protector. But
mm,
anyway, like it's interesting to like start to put that together now.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
like, and again, what does it matter if I'm wrong or not, right? Like who in my family is going to fact check me because I'm not really in touch with anyone.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you want to fact check me, cool, but I can see it clearly for me, and that's enough.
yeah, yeah. And also, I think there's something um interesting about how we're framing trauma in our like Western psych world.
Mm.
Um, Bayo Kumalafe talks. He does talk about this um, in his like post activism work, but he really talks about kind of dispelling this myth that trauma is an identity, that it is an isolated, singular um, event that only includes us because we're part of an ecosystem and there's an entire ecosystem involved in all of that. And it really like kind of like untangles and unknots something that we're like really clutching tightly as like an ownership thing. And when I kind of start to untangle the body nervous system piece, what comes up for me is kind of like back where I was kind of starting, where it's like, like all throughout my life, yes, like having a nervous system hypervigilance, looking for threat all the time. And I was the first one in the ocean and the last one out. And so like being able to find that connection anyways, I think that's the most beautiful thing is like when the onus becomes on us to be the one to fix it, that will never fucking work because we are connected to everything and everything is here to help. And so, um, yeah, that's why, I mean, my little ribbon dancing thought was just kind of like, I wonder about people who, if anyone is like, oh, I'm not connected to the world around me, I'm not connected to nature. And I'm like, well, I wonder if you feel yourself inexplicably drawn to fire, to crows, like to sparrows. Oh my God, I love the sparrows in our yard. They're so dramatic. It's like Real Housewives, like drama all the time with the sparrows. I love them.
Oh my God, I love bird drama.
Yeah,
I was recently staying at a house like right on the shoreline and the
yeah,
bird drama in the morning. It was worth tuning in for.
yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I just always want to see you starting shit. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just like there's infinite parts, and I wonder, like if I think the validating the self and like the pull towards something feels really important. Um, yeah, there was something else, but I can't remember what it was.
What did the kayak tell you?
Oh, um, a lot of things that took me a year to figure it out. Um, there was something really quick. I did this last time on your podcast too. There was something about, oh, I just want to laugh with, with you really quickly about how I started doing somatic, um, like trauma healing work because I was like, I'm going to do this for me. And then I was like, I'm going to do it so I can help other people. And actually, what it's turned into is I am doing it so that I know how to help my ancestors who have already died work through their narratives and put them down so that we all can be freer. Isn't that so cool?
It is so cool. It's kind of wild. You have a great story about like helping an ancestor in the same way that you do trauma healing with clients. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah. When I experienced the I'm going to be teaching a class on this soon with my friend Shosh on ancestor elevation. And essentially, it's supporting whatever stuckness. And for me, this is just my view, um, my personal like understanding at this point. But I think a lot of um, what we're dealing with when we're talking about trauma um, is or is the story, and the story has energetic and um, like physical weight and ramifications and all of that. And the dead have those too. Um, the way I kind of understand how we function, who knows, this could change, but I kind of see it as like we have a soul. For me, that's the infinite consciousness part. That's the part that's like, I don't know, part of some huge, enormous thing that I couldn't possibly fucking fathom, but it's collective consciousness, and there's a part of it that's in us that's our soul, and it never dies, and who the fuck knows? And it's kind of inexplainable, but really cool. And then we have a spirit, and the spirit is like the avatar kind of that we're playing in this little errand life. Um, so I'm Jes Baker, and Jes Baker has like their own like favorites and hates and experiences and proclivities, and that's the avatar spirit. And then there's also the body, and the body um, is its own being made of many beings, but also it is the way that we get to experience the sensation of connection in a very cool way. Um, so ancestors have a soul, and they do have spirit, um, unless they've moved on. But a lot of them kind of like retain, for whatever reason, a lot of different reasons. They retain a spirit, the avatar. So if they're still here on, they can choose to come and go. A lot of them, sometimes they feel kind of stuck. But the ones who feel kind of stuck, oftentimes there's something unresolved. Mm. And that's what ancestral elevation is here to support. And that's where like the attention is really lovely. Um, but yeah, you dedicate, time and energy to supporting this ancestor and anyone who is interested in kind of like this energy bridge, right? Because they have their own team too. So you call on their team and you spend a lot of time with them. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it happens faster or longer. And yeah, it's just like this really beautiful reminder that they're loved. If there's some weird puritanical Christian shit that like the dogmatic like sinner thing that might be keeping them here, or there's forgiven, no, nothing to forgive, you're okay. Kind of listening to like what they need to have heard. Like it really does feel like I'm in a client session. And then oftentimes, like the first ancestral elevation I did, it was a great aunt who I never met, and she was really holding on to a lot of fear from being in a really domestic, violent home, and being very isolated from her family, which is so wild because like there's family that I go visit in Ireland that's like like a couple hours from her family, but they don't talk. And so what she needed was to be able to feel like she could escape and run to the ocean. And then Bridget and like her sister met her there and then helped her move on. And the wildest thing is a year later, so that was really cool because whatever that energetic weight is in the family, it doesn't just affect one person. And I think that's why we can't look at ourselves as like paragons of purity, because like we're affected by everything. Like we make all these choices too. So, and also everything that's come before us affects us. And so it's just kind of this like we're all in like ancestor soup together. And it's like, how can I support? Because it benefits me, it benefits you, and it benefits the future. And probably all of that's happening at the same time. I don't understand how time works. I think it all exists at the same time. We just in these bodies experience it linearly. I don't know. Anyways, the coolest thing was that this ancestor who was the first one that I helped elevate, just means to like kind of get the energetic lift, which was literally like a client session. It was so wild. That's when I was like, oh, y'all are good. You like got me through the training so I can do this with you and with other people. And then a year later, there's like a period. Caitlin talks about it being kind of like a year and a day. But a year later, this woman contacts me on ancestry.com and was like, hey, I'm the daughter of this woman that you elevated. And like, I don't know, I'd like to chat. And previously to this, I had asked my relatives in Ireland if they knew how to get in contact with their family. They're like, no, we don't know. Ask your aunt in San Diego. My aunt in San Diego has no fucking idea. Nobody knows how to contact these people. And then her daughter emails me, and I was just like, this is so like, it's so cool because when shit like this happens, it's like time and space don't matter. like, yeah, I'm in the US, but like also we're doing this multidimensional work that's so cool. Yeah. And I've also done elevations that have taken a week and threw a birthday party for um, a sailor uncle who had a big misunderstanding wound, which I also have. And that was really fun. Smoked some cigars and listened to flamenco music. And so, and ancestor elevations can be wonderful too. They do take a lot of energy though.
I want to shout out altars for energy too, because I have felt the difference in having a candle lit on my altar and like what
Yeah.
lift that gives me. And
Yes.
you even helped me in this episode just see water on the altar a little bit differently, even though I always like to have all the elements there, but now I understand a little different energetic reason for that.
Yeah.
But I don't even like, I'm a person who I haven't frequently experienced like candle magic, quote unquote, working. Uh,
Hmm.
and yet, like, I can feel the energetic, like, relief of having candle going on the altar and then,
Yes.
in my life and just making space for that. And then I also want to give a shout out to anyone else who's like a recovering messy Marvin like me. Where like your altar does not have to be like clean and perfect. Like I have a kind of an altar that looks sort of like the trash heap in Fraggle Rock, like, but just with like earth elements because like when I was a little kid, I'd love to give my mom a pretty leaf. And so that's what I do. Like if I find something cool in the forest, or if I just feel called to it, like I have an amanita mushroom that like I've let dry out on the altar, like, just all the fun things. And so it just becomes like a heap, pretty blossoms. Ooh, love to bring a pretty blossom home. So like it just becomes this like heap. And then the way I release things from the altar as it's ready to clear out or pare down is I'll do like ceremonial burns in my little chimenea in my front yard, or I'll throw stuff away. So like, food and stuff I throw away. You don't eat it after it's on the altar, you throw it away because it's like licking their plate. So anyway, those are little just moments. I just want to empower people to just try it. You know what I mean? Like, what's it gonna hurt? You know? And it can.
Yeah. 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 I love that. I think I tune out a lot of I'm very selective with the people I learn from because um, capitalism loves to swoop in and make everything um, an aesthetic that is expensive. And it feels really important to name that like our ancestors were like reusing candles. They were making lanterns with like fat drippings. Like they're they were using what they had um with intention, and I think that that's really important to remember, just because I mean, like, you do you, and if there's like a certain aesthetic, that's wonderful, but I think the intention and the energy is the most important part. And there was something else that felt really important too. Oh, that so the ancestors, the benevolent ancestors, the ones who are like really here, there's so many of them. I don't think people realize how many there are, because there's just so many people and there are so many.
We each have
um
double the ancestors of our parents.
it just keeps going back and back and back.
Yeah.
Adrian Wachter talks about this, and he talks about ancestry being like the ocean, and we're the wave that's kind of like hitting the beach. Um, and we have the entire ocean behind us. And the ocean goes all the way back to like single cell organisms. Like it goes all the way back. It goes all ancestors. Earth is ancestors, right? So we're just talking about like these human ones that are like kind of arbitrary, but also they're very important. Um, Earth, everything on Earth is an ancestor. So there's that too. Anyways, single cell organism. But then there's us kind of just like we're in the body hitting the sand, right? And but we have all of the momentum of like the ancestors behind us. And I think that's a really powerful energy and feeling, and that's there. And I think a lot of people are concerned about like, oh, what about my terrible ancestors, or what about the ancestors that I knew in my lifetime that are now dead who are terrible and harmful. And um, I think it's really important to remember. For me, the thing that makes sense as somebody who works in like a trauma informed way with the body and just like is inherently pragmatic, it's like, well, we need to be really resourced before we step into um, murkier, stickier things, right? And oftentimes, it's also something that Aidan, did I say Adrian? Aidan Wachter talks about is the old line, which are ancestors that are older, like further removed back in time. Oftentimes, those ancestors have a lot less attachment. So the more current, maybe the more sticky. So allowing yourself to invite in and be held by the wise and well, the benevolent, the old line, however you want to call them in. And eventually, as this practice builds and you get to know them more and more, and you're able to communicate and like work together, that's then where you might be like, okay, there's this, this this hiccup of this story that's really fucking up our family line around this thing. And maybe I want to, with the help of my ancestors and my team, start to address it. That feels really important too. Um, the last thing I just want to add about the altar is like, especially like financially, um, your ancestors don't want you to suffer. Like they do not want you to ever suffer. That is the opposite. And so if it causes you hardship financially, don't do it. If you can't afford to put food there, um, do something else. Offer them what you have. Even a picture of a candle, like drawing a candle and putting it there, is like that amount of intention and energy. Like the exchange is there, and that's really beautiful. And I feel like that's really important to like kind of level set our expectations of what we can do, and it might change later on. Um, but yeah, there are some cultures that do eat. It's interesting. There are some cultures who do eat the food afterwards. Most
Oh,
tend to not, because the energy has kind of been, like used. Um, I saw this really great um, video, Nordic animism. Um, the Nordic animism channel is really great on YouTube, and they were talking about Finnish, essentially like Finnish Samhain. It's called something else. But the way they do it is they prepare the sauna for the ancestors first, and then they let the ancestors do the sauna while they create food and make a table for the ancestors. Then the ancestors go and eat the food, and then the people take the sauna. And then after the ancestors eat their food, they come in and eat the food. So they just do it first. And that just kind of I feel like the way that moves throughout a day is like the perfect example of kind of how to like work with your ancestors. Like if you're making coffee, just make them a tiny little cup first,
yeah.
and then also make yours. And I like you taking some off plates and putting it on there too. And yeah, it can be anything. Yeah, we don't have to be so perfect and just practice.
It's very anti-Mormon. Um, which is what Jes was raised in, which you can find all about how Jes came back to faith after Mormonism and atheism in a previous episode of ours, and I'll put links to those in the show notes. Jes Baker, you're one of my favorite people. Thank you for being my friend. Thanks for being back on my podcast and talking like a total nerd in my favorite way about rocks and altars and ancestors for an hour.
Oh my God. I talked so much. It was my pleasure.
I mean, that's the point. It's the point. Is I create a space, you talk, and people learn and get to visit and have a parasocial relationship, and I love it so much. Jes,
I love you, and I love the ancestors. So it was a dream.
yes, and Jes's website is so great, jesbaker.com, and
Yeah.
also Jes has a great Patreon.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/JessBaker.
Yep.
Great. It's all in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you next time.